Hi Sophie, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure. So, to kick things off, perhaps you could tell me a little bit about how you've got to become editor of Freelance Magazine and your career to date.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, strong marketing background, so marketer, and now sort of um, self-proclaimed editor of Freelancer Magazine. So yeah, started off as a marketer in sort of corporate hospitality, so working for Hilton and brands like that, and then went freelance about 8, 9 years ago.
Mhm.
As a marketer, my freelance business is called Thoughtfully, and was working largely for the travel and hospitality industry. Then a lot of my work started to be in copywriting and content. It was just kind of, I didn't really realize how much I enjoyed that aspect of the work, I guess. And looking back now, actually, even in hotels, I was writing the brochures and really enjoying it and sort of not really thinking anything of it. And I guess that kind of that element of the work is sometimes seen, it's not the kind of strategic part of it, is it? So yeah, when started doing sort of content copywriting and didn't really know what a copywriter was, but sort of started calling myself a copywriter. And so I was on Twitter and I found this like most amazing copywriting community on Twitter. I know you've spoken to Dave Harland, and he's a good mate of mine now. I'm really honored to say, that, and lots of other people, that content shared, loads of copywriters. We there's a live Twitter chat every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Which is hashtag Content Club UK, and I can't remember how I did it, but I stumbled across like the first one and was just, became part of this incredible copywriting community and just learned loads about copywriting. And that was about 3 years ago. And then I was actually living in Exmoor at the time. So I was in London. And then sort of 6, 7 years ago, my husband and I decided we'd had enough of London. We went traveling to India for 6 months, left our stuff in like an old family holiday flat in Exmoor, went to get it, and then was still there 6 years later. And he retrained as a plumber, but we decided we wanted to come back to London. So we moved back to London last February. And I was like, ready to kind of get more into marketing again. I was missing the strategy side of it. I really wanted to sort of double down and focus on travel and hospitality because I'd always had that as a client base, but had sort of tried to do some other things. And then was like, you love hospitality, you love travel, in your personal life. Why do you keep trying to not work for these industries? And like I was working for like London Eye, lastminute.com, big brands as well. And so yeah, I was like chomping at the bit to get back to London. I thought I was going to set up like some hospitality marketing like networking event, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to like take the hospitality marketing industry by storm. And then by March, I'd lost basically all of my clients.
Yeah.
And, the familiar tale of 2020. And I suppose I still had that, I had the drive, but also I didn't have anything to lose to some extent. And actually I've found in life, when you have that blank canvas, that is actually when something quite exciting can happen next.
Absolutely. So that's when the magazine was born and when it started.
Well, I actually started making courses. So I started making marketing courses online about July 2020.
Okay.
And they were targeted at freelancers, predominantly. And the response was really good, and I was getting a really bigger part of online freelance communities last year before I started doing the courses, just because everyone was online so much, everyone was looking to help each other. And then started creating the courses, and was just getting so much support from people either buying them or sharing them, and then just really throwing myself into being part of those communities and where I say I think the idea for the magazine came from was the fact that, you know, because freelancers were not only kind of my peers and my mates at that point, but they were also my target market. I started really paying attention to problems that other people were having that weren't necessarily relevant for me. Whereas normally when you're part of communities, you probably, you know, really your ears prick up when your eyes prick up. I was thinking of a meerkat. Your eyes prick up when you know, when it's relevant for you, or when you feel like you can help. But I was trying to listen to like everything to spot like gaps, and, you know, started becoming known, you know, within my own little communities of, you know, as someone who was like, they call me the freelance OG now, the freelance someone, yeah, which I was so pleased about at the time. It was Joe Gannon, who's amazing on LinkedIn, and I was being so inspired by these people who are quite a bit younger than me, and he was like, "Oh, Sophie, you're like a freelance OG," and I told my husband, and then I realized that just means old.
I think you've highlighted something there, though, because I mean, I think a lot of people have felt quite isolated over the last 16 months of working from home, but as a freelancer, that's normal. There's been no change for many people, this working from home, and even more so because you're not necessarily part of a team. You take the work, you do your bits in isolation. So I think to have some sort of community there where there's people who perhaps even in slightly different positions or different industries can absolutely share and relate to your kind of struggles must be an amazing support group, really.
Yeah, and, you know, copywriting Twitter, you know, and marketing Twitter, in my experience, is like incredible. If you're talking about kind of collaboration over competition, that I've never seen anything like it. And, you know, certainly it was a business, you know, sort of mindset that I believed in, but actually to, you know, be surrounded by these role models who are, you know, doing business a bit differently, just really going out of their way to sort of help and collaborate with each other and share, you know, this is my contract template, this is, you know, on a practical level, this is what I charge. If you want help with this, if you want me to, you know, I guarantee if I put on Twitter, "Oh, I've got this thing, I just don't think, I'm not sure if it sounds right," you know, I would have like 20 people be like, "Oh, I'll read it for you," you know, and what goes around comes around, right? So yeah, it was an incredible year for that, and continues to be. And so I was trying to think of a way to create content for freelancers with a view to marketing the courses, with a view to raising my profile as someone that could help, someone who was like an expert in freelancing, and an OG, and an expert in marketing, helping freelancers market themselves. And I just suddenly thought, oh, I don't think there's a magazine, because we would know about it. And I used to make a magazine for a hotel client, with Angela, who I designed this magazine, or who designs this magazine with me. Well,
Is Angela a designer then?
Yes, Angela Lyons is the designer for the magazine. So we worked together for like 3 years on a magazine for a big hotel group, and it got pulled. So it was serendipitous a little bit in that way. Yeah, I came up with the idea on New Year's Day morning, which I also blame. I didn't drink in 2020. I had a challenge to do a year off it. And I'm like, who's thinking of business ideas on like New Year's Day morning? So that was probably another reason why I came up with the idea, or was able to come up with the idea.
A bit of clarity. You must have been the only person that was sober last year.
Yeah, like the only person buying URLs on New Year's Day morning.
Yeah, most people are searching divorces on New Year's Day.
Yeah. Or like hangover doctor.
Yeah. So do you think in some respects, because the world was turned upside down, it almost forced you into this? Do you think I know it's hard to know what would you have done had this not happened, but do you think, I know I've spoken to a few other people who've started businesses and almost said, I kind of felt like I had a bit of a shield around me, because if it didn't work, it didn't really matter, because everything in the world was a bit crazy anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, like I've always found like having that, like actually funnily enough, the course I was doing at the time when I was inspired to start making my own courses was a course by Mark Pollard called Sweathead, and it was a strategy course. And again, I met a few people on Twitter that were doing it, and we sort of set up our little, what we called it, a coven. So there's like 6 or 7 women. We started this little accountability group, and I sort of had that moment where I was like, well, I could maybe make a course. But his kind of, one of his strap lines is, from mess comes what next. And I love that, and it really resonates with me. But I feel like, yeah, there was probably a mix, like almost like a perfect mix of experience mixed with not having anything to lose.
Yeah.
But I definitely do feel like, again, like my friend Gareth Thomas was telling me about it, but it's a Steve Jobs quote that's like about joining up the dots. So you keep laying down dots, and you don't know how they'll join up in your future. But I feel like, oh my God, I can see so many things with the magazine now where it was sort of meant to be, like in the way, you know, I love writing, marketing it. I used to make magazines. I love, you know, hearing about people's stories. I love, you know, my main kind of marketing at the moment is certainly, you know, I mean, it's so organic that I don't even think it's marketing myself a lot of the time, because you know, it's, but that is great for me. That's perfect. So yeah, it just feels like those dots have really started joining up. And even silly stuff like, you know, stuff that you try and force, also I was trying to force years ago, like, and now like sort of like wanting to do something with music or playlists, but now there's a playlist in the magazine, and I'm like, and even on my courses, like I have playlists for my courses and stuff. I'm just kind of like, you know, people, I don't know, people can like it or lump it to some extent, can't they?
So you can certainly, your passion for it's definitely coming across, and I think if you're going to take on something like this, you want to enjoy it. It almost doesn't, it is work, because I imagine you put in lots of hours in, but I'd imagine you are going to bed excited, waking up excited. If you're out on a walk, you're probably thinking of ideas, and it sounds like it's almost all happened, all come together.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we launched via Kickstarter, and I think actually from the first day I started talking about this, I was talking about it with this much enthusiasm, which was like, and then other people feel that energy, and they actually then, so I talk a lot about DJ Dom C, who was on the front cover of issue 1, who was like the main feature interview. I asked him if he would be involved, and basically the first issue was creativity, so I was like, who are the coolest people I know? You know, who are the most creative people I know? So I called him, and then he was like, hey, why don't we do a launch party on Twitch for your Kickstarter, because he was DJing, like moved all his DJing onto Twitch. So, you know, we had an awesome launch party which just got the Kickstarter off to a flying start. And then another friend, Twitter friend, who I've met in real life now, which is great, called Ed Callow, who's an amazing writer. He wrote into Radio 6, into Lauren Laverne, and we got like a huge feature on Lauren Laverne.
Wow.
And it was like, people could feel, you know, they were like feeding off it. And, you know, I was just celebrating, and, you know, ultimately that kind of is, if you're talking about it in a marketing sense, it's social proof, but really it was like, yeah. And it was crazy. And actually I sort of promised myself from the beginning that I was going to enjoy it. And after issue 1, I did, and the Kickstarter, and I also moved house and fully renovated the house in those 3 months. I did feel a tiny bit burnt out, and I really kind of had to check myself and say, a tiny bit burnt out. I sort of had to check myself and say, like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, which is actually a song on one of my courses playlist. But yeah, I just had to kind of, you know, I sort of hate, I'm saying now I hate the word sustainable, which is a bit controversial, isn't it? Because I'm like, not that person. I want to, you know, as you could probably tell already, I probably, you know, I want to, you know, effing love something. I don't want it to be sustainable, but I was like, if this is to be sustainable and you're gonna keep enjoying it, and, you know, really the kind of positivity and enthusiasm and kind of calm, collected to some extent demeanor that you're going out with is to remain genuine. You need to start doing some exercise again, and you need to start like getting out of the house and having time off. And so yeah, that was, and I got a co-working space as well because we moved back to London, so everything was quite hectic, and it was the first time I hadn't had like a dedicated office in ages in my house. So I've just kind of got a co-working space, and that kind of work life separation has been really important. Leaving the house to get to the co-working space is helpful.
Yeah, it's just that separation, isn't it? I think a lot of people will have missed that commute, even if you've only got a short commute. It just gives you that headspace that you don't feel like you're working from the office rather than living in the office rather than working at home. It can be hard to get the balance. So you started the magazine last year, and it's a quarterly magazine. How did you, so the last quarter is all about community, so I want to talk to you about that as well, but how did you start to introduce it? How did you get people subscribing to it, signing up? What was your uptake, and how have you approached that?
Yeah, so we launched via Kickstarter. So it was this year, so it was 1st of Jan this year, and the Kickstarter launched by the end of February. So it was just like 100 miles an hour, and I was just like, I want to take people with me. So from the very beginning, I basically told people what I was thinking. So I was like going out on Twitter, and I was like, thinking of launching a magazine. We put some cover options together. We got people to vote on the cover options before the Kickstarter went live, like the logo options. And it's just kind of been like that. So then, we had the launch party. I was sort of sharing teasers of, I think when the Kickstarter went live, we had about 3 spreads mocked up. So, and we made, I say we, but well, it was we, me and Ange with the design. But yeah, I did a Kickstarter video with a videographer called Jessie Roth. So we had, people could get a real sense of what it was about, or as much as they could. And then, I just went to town mainly on Twitter. The Twitter community have been amazing, but on LinkedIn as well. So those are the 2 platforms I use the most. There is like a dedicated Instagram account for the magazine, which is growing as well, but that's more, I just knew if I wanted one account dedicated for the magazine visually, like because it's quite visual, it had to be Instagram. But I only have my own accounts through Twitter and LinkedIn because I just think it's better to be it's better to be a person.
I think people feel, definitely, they know who they're dealing with. It's the editor behind it. I think Twitter just seems to have people you can share on Instagram, but I think Twitter's just so much easier to share content, to comment on it. It's so much more fast-paced, isn't it? So it sounds like you've got the right platforms there. It's interesting also because obviously all these social platforms have had a bad name for themselves recently for negative comments. So it's interesting to hear from your side of things how you found such a supportive community, and actually complete opposite, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not denying that social media can be a complete shit, basically, but and actually it surprised me in a way because I have always been fairly cautious with it, and still am to some extent. I mean, I think sometimes you'll find people who work in digital, who work in social, who work in marketing, like my family kind of take the mick out of me because like I left WhatsApp, and they're like, why have you left WhatsApp? Like you literally work in, digital, and I don't go on social that much, so I use it a lot for work, and I use it a lot for chatting in the daytime with like my freelance community or the different freelance communities. But I am really careful not to lose evenings to scrolling. I don't really, I'm really selective what channels I use. So I was a bit reluctant to kind of throw myself in. But now I've sort of realized that, providing it is positive. You are, and I'm really, again, I don't follow any celebrities at all, any news at all. It doesn't interest me. I never have. Like I see what's trending, obviously, But I think by the nature of that, I don't really get like these kind of random, you know, you kind of, yeah, of course, every now and then I'll sort of click a few times and end up and be like, "Argh." But other than that, I really don't. Even on LinkedIn, I rarely, I don't know, sometimes I think there's something wrong with my LinkedIn, that everyone's like, oh, I'm getting all these spammy, and it sort of started a bit when I launched the magazine, but yeah, again now, not too bad. And I think, yeah, like use the unfollow liberally. You know, and I know other people share stuff and you can't help that, but then you know, unfollow those people, so you don't, if you don't want to see that stuff. I just think,
Yeah,
you know, you're not obliged to reply to people, you're not obliged to follow anybody. So yeah, like I just always encourage people to keep it as a positive space for them as possible. And I know that still isn't you know,
yeah, 100%.
possible. And also that I'm in a privileged position that, you know, I'm not kind of inviting trolls at the moment, and you know, maybe that will happen one day, but
yeah, good.
Yeah.
No, I think it's sensible advice though. I think social media is obviously got to be part of your marketing, and it is a great way of speaking to each other, but it is also, like you say, trying to not lose your evenings looking through things and you think, actually, I've just spent my time looking at people that I don't even know while my family is sat by me and I've completely ignored them. And you can see how it does become an addiction then, and it moves on from being useful for work marketing. So with your kind of community that you've built up then now, how are you finding that you're getting feedback from a lot of freelancers that are reading the magazine? Are they in communication with you? Are you having magazine? Are you inundated with potential contributors? How's that happening?
Yeah, lots, all of the above, really.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you know, because the magazine was born out of community, because this issue is themed community, you know, I've obviously been thinking about it more than ever. So, and I suppose from a publishing perspective, we're print first, and you know, the idea of that being just to be you know, to have a bit of a point of differentiation, that, you know, people would like some time away from their screens.
Yeah.
But, and you know, it's nice, you know, to receive something nice in the post, but also it was about kind of connecting people, not necessarily having to be online. And actually, yes, the first, you know, our first readers, subscribers are certainly probably mainly people that have come from these existing online communities. But, you know, the intention is that we do get out to people that might not be part of Slack groups or Twitter or Facebook groups, and that they can feel connected without having to be online. But then also it's about me having a dialogue with people, but also what I'm really focused on is connecting them, like, you know, connecting the different people in the community who aren't connected. And I absolutely love that. And like, if I see people on Twitter or LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, I think they might have met through me, like that is my jam basically. But I think that is also you know, that is community. The community is not you having a dialogue with, you know, that's an audience. The community is when they're connected to each other. So yeah, and I mean, I'm lucky to be part of lots of different communities, so I'm sort of trying to bring those communities together a little bit, I guess. And yeah, and then kind of on the lookout for, you know, different ones, because I think it's always easy, isn't it, to kind of, you know, Twitter especially is kind of a bit of an echo chamber, isn't it, where you're kind of like, but yeah, lots of people being really supportive. We got like I asked people if they would leave a Google review and said, like, if you leave a Google review, like, I'll send you a sticker. And we got like 65 5-star Google reviews in like 2 days, which was amazing. And yeah, just, you know, I'm on the lookout for people to feature, and hopefully my plan at the moment is kind of issue 3, issue 4 time. Like, I'm not in a position at the moment, just budget wise, to commission and outsource too much. You know, I'm trying to do quite a lot myself, but yeah, that is the plan kind of moving forward over the next couple of issues.
Yeah, Sounds really exciting. I'd imagine that the freelance community's grown as well over the last 12 months. I think as people have unfortunately been made redundant, perhaps it's been an opportunity for a lot of people to think, I'm going to give it a go on my own and actually what's out there. And I think I love the fact that you've done it as a print magazine, because I think it's so important. I know personally, if I've got to read more than a few sentences, I so much prefer to print it out, read through it. I think you can digest it. It takes you off your screen. And actually, it's something quite nice to have. I'd imagine a lot of the content in it is something that you can go back and revisit as well. Whereas when it's online, it kind of disappears, it's gone, it's so short-lived. Whereas actually, it's almost like something that you want to collect and keep hold of, with it being quarterly as well.
Yeah, we hope that people would kind of fold over the pages and come back to it. And yeah, we try and include like everyone's handles in there and things like that, so you can kind of go through and follow people or connect with people. And yeah, it's a mixture of kind of longer form interviews with different types of freelancers, and then lots of sort of business and marketing and more digestible type articles of like tools you could use or processes or things and tricks, and just trying to share. Oh God, I'm about to use the term best practice. Share best practice. I said it. But yeah, so and it, there's a lifestyle element to it too. So I sort of, and you could probably tell if you went through the magazine, I sort of picked my favorite bits from different magazines, but then worked out how I could make it freelancer themed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sort of did that, and yeah, obviously it's really, really new, and I'm sort of getting to grips with, I think we have regular features that I like. I will say regular, there's been 2 so far, but
there will be regular.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, but yeah, it's just kind of, experimenting a little bit at the moment, but yeah.
I think that's nice though, because the regular content is what people dip into. They know that's going to be there, but then there's different features each time. So it sounds like a great format. So we've touched on community, and that's been this edition. Do you know what the next feature is going to be? Is that something you're allowed to talk about yet, or is that under wraps?
So yeah, I do. Issue 3 is themed discovery. So it's kind of an anything goes. So I'm just looking, because I have my issue 2 in front of me, and it has what's coming up in issue 3 in it. So oh yeah, lots of different things. But shall I read you some of them? So
go for it.
There's all lots of things in discovery, because it allows you,
full poetic license, I guess, isn't it? Discovery.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got get into bed with Google. It's not unusual to be a freelancer unless you're a ... Bit of a teaser. We've got an article about sex work. So let's talk about sex work, which is going to be a really interesting one. Culture vultures, tarot reading. You want to be a translator. Do I need a newsletter? So yeah, the best book subs, lots and lots of different things. But yeah, there's a bit of a teaser for you for issue 3, exclusive scoop there.
Yeah.
And then issue 4,
won't share it with anybody, don't worry.
Don't tell anybody, please.
My lips are sealed.
Yeah. And yeah, issue 4 is out in January, and it's going to be starting something. And I actually started thinking about that one today a little bit as well, because I'm really excited about that one. So yeah, creativity, community, discovery, starting something. And I'm toying with the idea at the moment that will be, I'm 90, this is another exclusive. I'm 95% sure we'll go beyond issue 4, because with the Kickstarter, people could buy issues 1 to 4. So when we hit our goal, we smashed our goal actually, which was amazing. But I was obliged and guaranteed to make issues 1 to 4. But I am almost certain, I was sort of planning this announcement for about February time, but I can't keep my mouth shut. But I'm pretty sure there will be an issue 5. But TBC, it's still early days. Good. No one knows. But I'm sort of toying with the idea of rotating those themes, because I think they're really nice kind of pillars, and they leave enough kind of flexibility to, as we've discovered with discovery. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that sounds sensible. So what's next then? You've got this far already. Is this your main focus? Is this your baby, or
Yeah, this is my baby. I don't have kids actually, but I do feel like I gave birth to a magazine. Yeah. So actually, I'm working with a business coach at the moment, which has just been incredible. And I have just told my sort of last proper client at the moment that I can't work with them anymore, just because I really want to focus on the magazine. And client work might come. Well, I do a little bit of ad hoc writing and things for other clients, which, you know, I can fit in and I really enjoy. But in terms of kind of like retainer work and stuff like that, it was kind of like between outsourcing stuff for the magazine and using that client money to do that, or getting rid of the client, which was also a bit sad because I really enjoyed working with them. But it doesn't make sense for me to kind of do the client work and then outsource. So I'm going to kind of consolidate. So yeah, magazine is 100% the focus. My courses sit under the Thoughtfully brand, so I'm actually going to be moving them under the Freelancer Magazine brand, refreshing them, and we'll be looking to launch more courses that will just be really targeted at freelancers, alongside the magazine. We're also launching, like, we have a newsletter at the moment, like I'm growing an email database, but I want the newsletter to be like all singing, all dancing, just something a bit different. So I'm creating that at the moment. So that will definitely launch by issue 3. And yeah, it'll be different content to the magazine, and it will be, kind of shorter, bite-sized, but yeah, really focus something a bit fun for freelancers, probably a monthly. So yeah, just everything.
Nice, that's communication in between, isn't it? Keeps you in touch with your audience. Shorter snippets can be, I guess, something a bit more timely, something that's happening, that's current, that's relevant in between your editions that come out. I think it's interesting that you say that you're working with a coach, and actually sometimes you almost need that external perspective to get you to focus, because it is sometimes hard when you know that you can take things on, or you know you can help somebody, or you quite enjoy that bit, to not get yourself so distracted and doing little bits of everything kind of well without doing one thing particularly well. So that sounds sensible, and actually that's probably given you opportunities to perhaps refer work to other freelance contacts that you've got, and that's always there. You can always pick that. It's never going to go, is it? So you can always come back to that.
You forget that though, don't you? But yeah, I actually just had a call with someone who I was referring the work to, which was really nice. And yeah, absolutely, like that is something the coach reminds you, is like, that isn't gone forever now. But yeah, that was something, getting the coach was something I put in place kind of after issue 1. And I think, generally we work on our own. So and my husband is probably a little bit sick of me monologuing at him about the magazine, so it's just nice to have someone else to talk to about it. And to get that outsider perspective. I really have, like, and for someone who was quite skeptical about coaching, but I think it got, not that its reputation has been any better recently on platforms like Instagram, but certainly I was skeptical about coaching over the years. But then over the kind of last year, I've only heard good things from my peers about how they've had good coaches. And I think, if you get a recommendation, you have a discovery call, you do your research, you get someone who fits with you, then like it can just be, I'm so pro kind of investing in yourself. And I know it can seem like a lot of money, and I know, but actually if you kind of think about it in terms of, a year in your business, or what difference that could make to your business, it isn't that much. Well, I know that kind of like group coaching sessions can be more affordable, but yeah, I suppose the thing that's been really good for me is that I learn loads, because I'm interviewing other people, I'm talking to other people, I'm researching the whole time, and then I feel that I feel an obligation to apply it, because I feel like I should be that role model that is not just kind of I can't say that word, I just tried to say it on another call, championing freelancers, but you know, I can't, yes, we give the advice we need to hear, but also I want to kind of, you know, lead by example as well. So
yeah, no, totally agree. I think it is coming back to the coach thing about getting the right person who has got some experience in your field, who you align with, who shares the values. And I think it can be massive confidence boost as well. Just sometimes when you're sort of doubting things because you're working on your own, I think to have somebody to back you and say, no, you've done really well. Or also somebody who you're sort of accountable to, because some days are easier than others, and just having that support there. So I think it's great that you've got that in place early on. Sounds like sensible decision.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was like, half of me, I wrote a blog about it actually, or a newsletter, that was like, half of it is like, she's like, you can see that she sees the potential in you, which is so powerful. And the other half, I was like, your job is like, tell people you're a coach without telling them you're a coach. Like,
yeah,
basically like just calling BS on people, aren't you? So like, you can sort of like, is that really, like, you know, and it's always helpful to have someone call BS on you,
I think so. And I think you've also got to give it time with something like that, and not think I'm going to change overnight, or I'm going to take so much from it, but actually give it a bit of time, and really run with it. And like going back to things, changing things, you can always move on. There might be that it lasts a period of time and then you think, okay, I've gone as far as I can with that individual now, but I feel like I need some support in this area. So no, I think it's really important for your sanity and for just planning, just putting a strategy together. It can be quite difficult working in isolation, which leads me on to my next question. What are you doing at the moment out of work then? You mentioned trying to get back into exercise. What's your kind of reset, unwind, relax?
Yeah, so I got a bit addicted to the investing in yourself, and I got a PT because well, yeah, I'm hoping that you know, I will be able to kind of reduce the sessions down. But you know, for someone who's like run marathons, I could not get my ass back in gear. And I was a bit worried because last time we lived in London, we were just in the pub the whole time, basically. But we were like mid-20s, and moved to Exmoor. I was sea swimming every day, all through the winter, everything. You know, I was part of a running club. It was just absolutely lovely. And I was like, oh God, I can't. And I moved back to London and lost it all really. And I was like, I have to prove that I can live in London and not just eat Deliveroo every night. And there's a PT studio next to my office. So I was like, do you know what? I think, I'm really interested in kind of behavior, like sort of psychology and that around marketing as well. And like BJ Fogg, I sort of read his book's really good, Tiny Habits it's called, and it's about, oh God, like if you want to start something, I sort of am a believer, like if you really want to do something, you can't stop thinking about it, and you don't do it, you either need to just park it and forget about it, or you need to like make it as easy as possible for yourself. So like I've moved my bike to next to the front door, even though I didn't particularly want it in the house. And now I know I use my bike every day, and I know if it was on my patio, I wouldn't be using it.
Just that barrier, isn't it? Yeah.
So he says like B equals map. So every behavior needs a motivation, ability, and a prompt.
Yeah.
So if you're motivated to do something, like I'm motivated to get healthy again, but if I don't have the ability to do it because my bike is like under a thing, and then that also serves as the prompt, right? So I'm trying to get back into, there's almost to some extent there's too much in London a little bit, because it's like, oh, I want to go to the velodrome, or I want to go swimming in the lake, I want to but what I'm doing is trying to get my ass back in gear.
I think routine helps, doesn't it? If you've got set days for set things, then that takes the thought out of it, because it's sometimes your brain that's the barrier, rather than once you get, I find with going to the gym or going to a class or anything, getting there is so much harder than being there doing the class. It's your brain toying with your brain.
What do you do?
I'm a bit of a runner.
Me.
So running is my thing. Not so much
running in this heat.
not so much. So I stopped my gym membership. I was at a local gym with lockdown, so I didn't go back. But now I've found one that's close to the office. So I've got just a few classes that I'm into MetaFit at the moment. That's been my thing.
What's that?
It's just a bit of like everything really, like squats, burpees, your general kind of fitness things that you try and do at home, but without other people there embarrassing you to make you do it. You don't put as much effort in. So that's been my Wednesday thing. We got a puppy a few months ago. Yeah, we fell into that thing. So we've got a lovely little Cavapoo. To be honest, he's been great, but that was the children wanting him more than me. So walking, a lot of walking now, but again, not so much in this heat, because I keep seeing on the news about all these dogs overheating and everything. So
you have to be careful with their paws on the pavement as well. I heard like the pavement can get too hot. But my dog's not good in the heat either. But I try and take him out early now. And that's, on one hand, that is lovely and not so nice walking him in London as it was in Exmoor, although we do have some nice parks. But you kind of, I find you also forget, you instantly forget what sort of progress you've made, or the things you already do, right? So, but then also, so I'm like, oh, I walk the dog every morning, but then it's kind of easy to be like, oh yeah, I walk the dog 40 minutes, and that's not enough exercise for me. Like, it's not when I'm eating delivery every night.
I think it's that feeling you get from when you do intense exercise that just makes you feel so much more energy. And I think for me, when I'm exercising, I feel like my brain's so much more alert. I sleep better. I can think clearer. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's when you need to exercise the most is when you least feel like doing. If I'm particularly stressed in work, I've got a lot on, I'm working a bit later, exercise can be the thing to go. Whereas actually, if I could just make half an hour to fit it in, I would probably be so much more productive. But
I know, I found like, I went to PT the day the magazine went to print, like last week, because I had it and it was there and I knew I had to go. And I was just like, there's no way I would have been exercising that week or that day. And I totally agree. The funny thing was as well, in issue 1, that theme kept coming up with completely different people that I spoke to. And I was asking, because the theme was creativity, so I was asking people, what do you do to stay creative? Just a really broad question. And people were like, exercise. And they were saying like, actually, there's something about the oxygen and the endorphins. And I don't know. So
I'm not very good at being a chilled out person. So for me to sit down, sit still, meditate, none of that. Exercise is far more like
swing some kettlebells around.
That would be more my thing. So we did have a few months ago, we started doing classes in the office. So lunchtime, we just had like a schedule of classes on, and that's nice, because actually that's making us do it, a few people doing it. But we're waiting for air conditioning to be fitted at the moment. So that's off the menu for now.
Well, after this recording, I'm going to do some exercise. It's going to be like one of the first sessions, because I want to start incorporating in like my own, and then I can reduce the PT down. But I'm like, I make a commitment that I am going to do it. I've told you now. I'm going to get my.
I think it's quite inspiring though when you've got a PT, because sometimes if I walk into a gym and I see weights and machines, I kind of think, okay, I don't really know what to do. I feel like people are looking at me knowing she doesn't really know what she's doing. So a PT will give you those kind of different sessions. So it might be every now and again to refresh it. And then you can certainly redo that. A lot of it's so easy to replicate at home or in the gym, isn't it? So
absolutely.
So it's been brilliant speaking to you. I feel like I've learnt loads. I need to subscribe to the magazine. I want to shout about it, tell all my freelance friends. Where can people find out about you? Okay. I know you talked about yourself personally. Is that the best place to follow, to keep up to date?
So the website is freelancermagazine.co.uk. My personal website is thoughtfully.co.uk, but I'm sort of undergoing changes at the moment. The courses sit there at the moment, but like I said, they'll kind of move over soon-ish, and there'll be new courses. At Fully Thought Out on Twitter, and at Freelancer Mag on Instagram. And I'm also, I think I'm /Sophie Cross on LinkedIn. Loads of different links there, but basically, find me on.
We shall find you on all of them. Thank you. No, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest.
Thank you so much for having me, Jane.
I shall let you go and do your workout.
Yes.